because that's what the life as we move forward in this century is going to be about. It's no longer going to be about applying what they've learned already, but it's about how can you adapt to change, how can you learn on the fly, how you can continue to do that. There's a saying that we're preparing kids today for jobs that currently don't exist with knowledge that may not matter. And so it's a purpose shift that has got to change. And so we've got to have kids who understand rigor, because when they get out there in the workforce, it's not going to be about applying the stuff they learned in high school or college for that matter. It's going to be about understanding how to continue to learn and to adapt and to move forward. So it's a long answer for a short question, but hopefully it gets at some of it.
Well, do you feel that all of these great universities will view our school in the same way when the top 100 kids all have 4s?
Absolutely. One, again, I don't think you're going to see everybody with an A. I know that that's a perception that's out there. In the classes where we've implemented the rubric system, that hasn't happened. We still have a distribution of performance. So I don't think that that's going to be something that will happen, and that's not something that the research points to. But I think that what we'll see is the colleges are going to continue to look at Kettle Moraine in even higher and higher standards. At the last school board meeting, we presented our latest advanced placement performance data, and we had another record year. And it's those metrics, it's that deep learning that allows students to perform at the highest levels on those summative assessments where they don't get a redo, that is going to continue to make Kettle Moraine stand out and continue to open up more and more doors for our kids. Over here.
Perusing through this volume of material you gave us, in there it talks about kids working within groups and basically addressing the problems or the task at hand and coming up with their own answers through cooperation and dialogue. And apparently this has been happening in the last few years. My daughter has had some bad experiences with that and has come to the conclusion that if she doesn't do the work for everybody, she gets a bad grade.
Oh, that's true.
Okay.
That's absolutely true.
So,
And I think that's an age-old problem with the cooperative learning model. There's benefits to cooperative learning, especially as we look at preparing kids to work in teams and understanding how that teams need different leaders at different points in times. But there are obviously failures of that model too, and there have been for decades. I remember when I was in school, I would get frustrated because I had to bear it on my back. But that's where I would encourage you as parents to encourage your kids to be self-advocates and talk to their teacher, talk to their counselor, talk to their principal, and if they aren't achieving the results that they want, that's when then you as the parent get to be that advocate and step in. And I know there's always the fear that if you have that conversation with the teacher's going to take out revenge. You need to put that off the table because you're here to do what's best for your kid, and that's what we're all here to do too.
I understand the words that you're saying. I have to practice that every day. But the fundamental question is, since this is going to be an integral part of the new methodology, how is that going to be addressed in the work that's going to be done over the summer and for the models that are going to be executed by the teachers? That's the fundamental question.
Sure. How do we ensure that our teachers are better equipped to deal with cooperative learning models and the inherent flaws therein? As much as we do with that, we're never going to have a perfect system because we're dealing with the humans, the kids. We're not like other businesses where we can do some quality control at the front end of our system. We educate everybody who walks through our doors. And that's the right thing to do, but doing that means that we have some inherent flaws in our system. Some flaws that we may never be able to fix because in America, at least, we've said we're going to educate everybody. Said that, we've done some work here at the high school. Our math department has been the department that's done the most cooperative learning and the most work in professional development to understand how to do cooperative learning. We rolled out, before I got to Kettle Moraine, a college preparatory math program. And there are mixed views about the program because some students find it very difficult to learn that model. What we know though is our students, every year we've had that program, and you can follow it year to year or cohort to cohort from one year to the next, have increased their performance And so we've got data that's undeniable that demonstrates the improvement in mathematics performance of students based on the implementation of that curriculum. So as I've met individually with students who say, but Mr. A, I hate the group work part, it's just so hard, I have to explain it to them over and over again. I say, and by doing that, you're learning it better than you ever have before. And so their frustration is really because they're forced to learn it at an even deeper and deeper level. And we've got the data that shows that. We published that a couple of times over the last few years, and we're getting ready to publish that again. So there's one model that we can learn from. We can use our math teachers as an example and as guides. Two of our math teachers, Mr. Comiskey, who was here, who must have had to leave, and another one of our math teachers are actually now trainers for the college preparatory model. They work throughout the year going out and training other teachers in other districts around the nation how to do this and how to implement it with fidelity again so that we can ensure that we have that increase in achievement that is intended. We don't want to do anything in schools that's going to decrease achievement. We're not here for that. Frankly, I'm not going to keep my job doing that. So as we do these things, we're going to make sure that we're having the positive impact that we want to have on every kid.
Dave, I need to add one more part. One of the things I think that
Microphone.
needs to be clear is that if you end up seeing cooperative work, that the advantage of cooperation is formative feedback. That's what it's for. You're working with other students, they're talking about problems, they're talking about solutions, they're getting feedback about learning. That is the advantage of cooperation. If you begin to see that there are benchmark assessments based on cooperative work, you need to ask some questions. Benchmark assessments for mastery should be about a student's independent learning, and if you begin to see something that would not represent your student's independent learning on that benchmark assessment, then some questions should be asked. But cooperative learning is very powerful when it comes to formative type assessments on that learning journey before they get to mastery, because that's where the power comes from. It's not evaluative. They're working with their fellow students. And there's a lot of power in that. But we have to take the evaluation out when that part of the learning is occurring. So if you do see that, that's feedback that we need. Because there's a misunderstanding or misnomer about that if you see that happening.
Thanks, Tanya.
I kind of want to make a comment or an observation, because what you're talking about at the high school is happening at the middle school and at the elementary schools eventually. It sounds like that's the goal, and I've seen some of it start to be piloted. And one of my concerns is with these learning targets, and what are we doing for the student who is already hitting the learning targets on day one? And I want to give you the example of band. That's a very simple thing. We can all understand learning targets. Do you have good posture? Do you know your B scale? Do you have rhythm? Whatever those things are. We did not have that system in place last year. We have it in place this year. My son, the saxophone, sees the light of day half as much this year. He does not practice nearly as much because he can meet those learning targets without doing anything. And I understand from what I'm hearing you say is when you get to the high school, take AP classes, you'll have harder learning targets. But we still have middle school and elementary school where not just band, we are tripping over the learning targets. That's comment number one. I'm not expecting you to respond to that, but there are other people in this room that needs to be addressed. Maybe there needs to be more AP type classes or honors classes at the middle.